Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Genlock, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Andy Potter, and today I'm joined by Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
Alex Bonilla.
Hola.
And John McKenna.
Hi, everybody.
Today we're going to be discussing the 7th episode of Genlock, It Never Rains. It is kind of just it really feels like a penultimate episode, I'll say that. It feels like we are building up to what's going to happen in the finale, and we get a little bit more exposition. There's some funny moments, but it's probably one of the slower episodes of the season. There's not a big fight or anything. But we'll get into that in just a second, because you can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. So, Beatriz, this is like our kind of bridge into the finale. How did you like this episode?
I mean, it's one of those episodes where if I were binging this show, I wouldn't have any problem with it. And I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, it's not the strongest, but it's still necessary. You know, it's kind of, we did need like an episode to kind of breathe a little bit. And we did need to get them from point A to point B. And it did it in the quickest way it could. And we know that there's a big episode later. I don't know, maybe they could have done a little bit more. They could have had a little bit more fun this episode in terms of not the characters, but the writers maybe could have done something more creative, and made it still entertaining. Because I feel like the last third of the episode, where it just gets to basically all of them just in one room sitting down and talking. It doesn't have like the energy that, say, previous episodes maybe have had with it. But you know, it's still good. Like it's not poorly done. I think maybe it could have been more. It's just not, in comparison to other episodes, it just doesn't hold up as strongly.
Yeah, I totally get that. Alex, how did you like this episode?
Well, this is the episode that has like 15 seconds of fighting, and the rest is all character stuff. So this is obviously the best episode of Genlock, guys. Like this has this has everything that I want out of Genlock. It opens with some Val Kazut conversation, deep thoughts about getting into people's minds. We get into Chase Yaz relationship that we haven't really touched upon up until now. We get the introduction of a whole new setting to replace our Anvil talk. We get an emotional moment with the Dr. Weller surprise. We get a new like mystery character that might be shady, probably shady, but who knows how shady. And there's jokes sprinkled throughout the entire episode. So like for me, at least I get that like people want fight sequences and all, but like to me this is like all the best elements of Genlock condensed into the episode. So I really enjoyed it. I think that maybe from an objective standpoint it's probably not the best because there's probably other episodes that have done better at like hitting emotional beats, but I just think that at least for me it was very enjoyable to see them finally focus for a full episode on just characters.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I didn't say it was bad because it didn't have a fight scene. Just clarify.
No, I heard you, Beatriz. Don't worry. John.
This felt like a transition episode, which I'm actually kind of fine with, though I wouldn't say this is one of the better ones. I do agree with Alex. There were some great character moments between Chase and Yaz. There were some good Kazu moments. There were great Cammy moments. I think for me, it was sort of good to have this episode because we just had a really high impact, 4, 5, 6 were really high impact. It's nice to sort of maybe take a deep breath and advance the show a little bit. We're now into the RTSA area. They gave themselves a hull-on upgrade, which is fantastic. And I do think that this was needed after last week. If just like Beatriz said, if I was binging this, it would probably hold up a little bit better. I did like it on the second viewing, though, to be perfectly honest. I appreciated it a little bit more. There were some moments I wasn't some moments I wasn't too much of a fan of, and we could probably get to those later, but it's a fine episode. I probably wouldn't put this in the top half, though.
Okay, cool. I like this episode. I'm a little lower on it than Alex, but I think I'm a little higher than it than you, Beatriz. I like this episode a lot. I like that we're, focusing on Chase. I do like that we're focusing on our characters in general. There was a lot of funny moments. I think David Tennant's character was probably the funniest he's been all season in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Which was
Lies.
I agree. I agree with Alex. I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling, Caliban.
Oh, I love Caliban.
I love Caliban, but that's implying that David Tennant before wasn't as funny.
Yeah.
Which I disagree with.
I don't know. I felt like this felt more genuine, the humor here. Like with Weller, I don't know. We can talk about it a little bit later, but
Yeah.
I think I like the humor here with Caliban. But I liked what happened here. I think it makes sense that we had like essentially a full episode fight scene last episode, so now we have a full episode of not fight scene. That makes sense to me. And we did need a little cool down after that. I did question some of the science happening, but that's neither here nor there because it's a stupid mech show. And Cammy continues to be the most pure and precious thing ever. And I want to protect her. Also, I think that we still have not really dug into Kazu's history, and I'm afraid we're not going to do it this season at all.
Yeah, I mean, I got excited for the briefest moment in the beginning, because in the beginning you don't see who's playing the guitar, but you do hear a guitar. So I was like, oh, is this like the musical cue, or we're about to start getting to the Kazu episode? But no, that didn't happen.
But we touched on it.
We did get, not to say that we didn't get anything about Kazu. I mean, we got a little bit of everybody, to be honest. Like, even by the end, we got a little bit of everybody, but, the Kazu-centric episode.
It feels like Kazu is a character we're going to delve into next season. That's what it feels like. Because we have not really investigated what is going on with him. And it feels like there is a lot more that's being hidden from us.
And even when they did those little character introductions with, I have his name written down here, with Mark Holcroft, it sort of felt like Kazu's was the shortest and really not the most in-depth of them. So maybe they are.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like it feels like they're writing very specifically to not tell us who he is. They're hiding something from us, the audience. And before we move on to that, because we introduced Mark Holcroft, that is actually voiced by the CEO of Rooster Teeth, Matt Hullum, which is interesting because this is the CEO of this company here.
So basically the head investor plays the head investor.
Yeah, essentially.
So,
it's interesting.
So does that affect the chances of him being like a villain?
Wait, which thing does it affect?
No, like chances of Holcroft being a villain.
That he's voiced by this person?
That he's voiced by the figure, basically his counterpart at Rooster Teeth.
I don't know, because I'll say this much. Despite him being the CEO, he is very much involved in, like, the productions. He is in their live action stuff. Like, he's an actor, too. Like,
okay, so he would be, like, cool for being like, okay,
anything.
we're gonna,
No. He's been in all their stuff. Like, he's fine doing anything.
Okay, alright, cool.
Yeah. It's just interesting, based on what it is. But look, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about the end of the episode here. I don't think there's any, like, big story here. Like, I think we can just kind of go through the episode beat by beat really quick and just talk about how we feel, because there's not a lot, like, of crazy philosophy stuff going on here this episode, which is... Yeah. I think there's a little bit with Chase a little bit later, but on the surface there's not as much as previous episodes, which I am fine with. It's okay to have a couple episodes of breather here before we get to the big stuff. So at the beginning of this episode, we are following our Genlock team running away from the Anvil because they were attacked the last episode. And they're trying to decide where to go. And every time they think they're safe, they're attacked. It's very similar to the chase from Avatar. They just cannot get away from the Union. And after a brief moment of, and we have this introductory scene inside the cockpit of this ship, and like we mentioned earlier, Val is playing the guitar, and Chase storms out. This scene was pretty much just, I think, like the setup scene, but I think it does a really good job of showing how divided our team is, and divides them more and more as the conversation goes on. And I think the most interesting thing is that the people most in control, it appears, are Cammy and Yaz. They're the ones that are kind of keeping everyone steady, which is interesting to me. Beatriz, how did you like this scene?
What I like about it is that it kind of shows us the versions of these characters that were first introduced to us, right? So like Valentina, their immediate response is, well, we can just, give up. We won't fight anymore.
Yeah.
We'll just find a bar. We'll, relax and wait until they find us, if they find us. And it's just kind of really interesting how it just kind of shows that together they improve themselves. Like they're better when they're together. Like they're better versions of themselves when they're together. But when they're like at the moment, when there's this threat of like, okay, well now it's over, they kind of revert back. Like, and there's like this threat of like, well, what now? We're probably going to split up. There is like, they do revert back to who they used to be. I don't know. Just, I liked that in terms of just like, we see, how they react when they're in like at bottom and who it is that kind of picks them up. When
they had this support system, this group of people at the Anvil, they felt like they could do something different than their normal way of acting. But now that they're alone, it's just like, why are we even trying anymore? Yeah,
and it just kind of, everyone kind of goes back to who they used to be. And it's just, that's to me really interesting. And
it feels very real. It feels very realistic.
Exactly. They go back to their old habits that they were breaking, they revert back to them, which again, it's say in like season 3, if they hit another rock bottom, maybe they were going to see like a parallel to this scene and how they respond to it.
I do think it's interesting because this is a very tropey scene. I don't think it's very like, it's not like this big crazy like creative thing, but it's like very well done. It's very believable. It hits home the correct way, and that is very commendable. Like, not everything needs to be this whole new delving into a different kind of thing that hasn't been done before. Like, just hitting tropes correctly can be done really well, and I think this trope is hit well. Alex, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that I liked the fact that it was Cammy and Yaz that were holding the team together specifically because neither of them really, because they were both still really in character though. Cammy was, she's still the goofball and all that, but she brought a lot of levity to what would otherwise be a very dark scene. And Yaz continues to be the straight man, being the one who's comforting Chase and doing all that. So having those two characters sort of on opposite sides, kind of holding the group together, I thought it really did work very well. And the fact you can get a chuckle out of the fact that Cammy was providing some really great lines during that whole thing, made it all the better too.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex, we cut you off. What were you saying?
Well, I was just gonna say that what stands out to me is just the whole conversation of like Kazu being very insecure about sharing his past. Like that's things that we've theorized about and talked about before, but like I think that this is the first time the show has come out and say it. So like I think it's just a matter of the show already doing its work in setting that up, and so now when it comes out here in this conversation in words, like it's not as surprising. But I guess that you can say that that's also a matter of like them just building it up sufficiently for where this is a meaningful moment that Kazu is now open to the point of admitting that he's afraid of letting people know his past, sort of thing.
And it's precipitated by the fact that it looked like Val learned how to play the guitar, and it's not because she learned how to play it, it's because she was in Kazu's mind and picked it up from him. So she's kind of in a sense copying one of his memories, in a sense.
And she's seeing his memories. She specifically referenced remembering learning while and playing guitar on a roof in Shinjuku. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I was like, that's not Russian.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. That is it's very interesting.
That's in Tokyo.
Yep. It's very interesting that, it's an interesting snag in this mind melding thing because Cammy never mentioned anything about Russia after speaking Russian, like other than speaking Russian. But that was during the mind meld. This is something post mind meld where Val knows something, which is very interesting. I'm interested to see where we go with this, if it's going to have an effect on people in later seasons.
And it's a completely legitimate moral question to have, though, because when you are melding minds and you can actually take a memory, Kazu's, I think, is right to be worried, because if you can take learning how to play the guitar in someone's mind, what else is there for the taking?
And there's the further question of identity there, because if you take too many memories, are you yourself? Or like it further drags out this question of who is anybody if like everyone's memory is all jumbled up. If Val takes too many of Kazu's memories, are they Val anymore? Or are they a weird combination of Val and Kazu now?
Yeah. I mean, but I also find what's interesting that and we mentioned this in a previous pod, where you aren't presenting one right option, right?
No.
So you have Kazu being having all the right to feel trepidation, but then you have Cammy on the other end being like, if you're like, you can look all into my head and I'm completely fine with it. So, which also fits into kind of the whole like white hat hacker kind of mentality in terms of like all information is good, you know? So kind of that also adds into what she's done in the past and her philosophy, I guess. So I also find that really interesting. Kind of that, yes, we are presented with like Kazu being like more, doesn't maybe not necessarily wanting to share things, but we also are given someone who does. And
it's very successful at not telling us who is right.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to tell us who is right.
And that's good. I really like that we're keeping in this we're very carefully walking along this line of these people have their right to their opinion here, but it's also not, it doesn't feel forced or drawn out. Like, this is just how it is, and that's good. I like that a lot. But at the same time, we also have this thing where Yaz and Chase still haven't mind melded, and I think this episode really emphasizes that Yaz feels a lot of emotions towards Chase. That
she does.
Possibly romantic.
Yeah. I mean, I got a feeling for it. I think it was in the previous episode when she was like, the whole banter, not banter, but like the whole plot of that, her being like, we need you here. Like you need to, like, not, she didn't say clearly like you need to like go, but she was kind of pitting herself like, she wanted, like the whole, like she wanted to open up to him, he wasn't. Yeah. And I had read that as charged, but then I was like, maybe not, maybe I'm just looking into it. So the feeling of seeing it now, and it's like, oh no, she really, really cares about Chase. It's like,
but
we need a new ship name.
Isn't it Golden Cloak, or is that?
That sounds like Yaz and Val, yeah.
That's Vaz and Val. Yeah. Okay, Chase and Yaz.
We'll figure it out by the end.
Yeah, okay.
Plums and cherries, we've figured it out before.
You figured it out before.
Yeah, I don't know if that's stuck yet, but
it will stick.
I saw at least one other person using it, so.
Did you? I saw nobody else using it.
It's someone on our Discord when she finished her thing.
Whatever. John, were you trying to say something about this?
No, I was gonna mention like Cammy had in that scene we mentioned, Cammy had the mic drop of the episode. Kaz was like, "What would happen if you saw a mind you didn't remember?" And Cammy's just like, "Well, I'd feel pretty bad that your mind exploded from learning about a 17-year-old girl. I got no shame." I was like, "Cammy, I love you." That was great.
I think that was one of Cammy's weaker jokes, honestly. I think that was, I don't know. I feel like
I think the Star Wars joke is the better one.
Yeah. Well, I think this is just an indication of how strong an episode it was for Cammy, that can be considered a weaker line.
Yeah, no. Cammy had a really great episode.
Oh, yeah.
But going back to the Yaz and Chase relationship, because I'm kind of in the camp that I hope that this is a friendship, not because I don't want them together, but because I think it'd be really great to show just how caring you can be for a friend. I think that's something missed out on.
Right.
It's like, I can see this as a real thing that a friend would do for a friend. Yaz realized Chase needs help, and she's just trying to be there as a friend, and I don't think there needs to be a romance there.
There doesn't. And also, there absolutely doesn't. And I mean, and if they did go that route, we'd be stuck in a love triangle, which is never, not all people love to love triangles. So, you're absolutely at this point, like it can all still be read as friendship, and it would still be, if anything, it would be more exciting for it because we usually are taught to read this as romantic.
Yes, but still, I will say this is one of the better let up romantic relationships. One of the better ones that I believe in, because like there's been like body language and attempts to touch, you know what I mean? Like, just to, like, touch shoulders and stuff, even though one's a hologram. Like, it feels built up to me, instead of just, like, they're just gonna go in for a kiss or something, which is nice. Like, there's been little ticks and stuff throughout the show. But it's just with how close-minded Chase is, it doesn't feel like they ever got emotionally invested as a couple should be. Because
no, totally. Like, he hasn't
yet.
Not yet. No, yeah, he totally has. But I mean, it's interesting because you have these two people. They were the first two.
Yeah, so they clearly spent time together.
Yeah, and so they've had to spend time together. They know each other and have gone through things that the other three haven't yet and have experienced things. So this is a relationship, whatever sense of that word relationship you want to use. It's a relationship that I really do hope we start delving more into in later seasons, or start seeing like how much they actually did rely on each other. And Chase, I wouldn't be surprised. It makes sense for him to have a wall because suddenly he's given his old life back, and it's like, oh, I'm excited because I get to like get back to this, and it's like pushing her away seems like a very human reaction to wanting, in his desperation to wanting to get back to who he once was. So it's also like, I don't know, like it's an interesting. They've set the stage for a really interesting kind of drama there.
Yeah, they really did. And I don't know, this show is just really good. I'm just really shocked by how good it is, that it just keeps getting gooder.
Better?
It's getting gooder.
No, I like gooder.
Gotcha.
Does anyone else have anything to say about this scene before we move on?
Well, which specific scene? Because like this relationship thing kind of spans the whole episode.
Before we lead into Chase flying away in the Holon.
No.
Okay. Because after this, because at this point we have Chase enter the Holon as he like storms out, like he's done with this argument, and then the Union find them, which we find out is because something with the Genlock stuff. So apparently when they're in the Holons, other Chase Nemesis can find them. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, they said that they've mentioned in previous episodes that Nemesis is always uploaded into Genlock, like they never take him out of that system. So it makes sense that if he's a Genlock Holon, so like when other Genlock Holons are active, so like now he has a connection.
He's just on the same system.
Yeah. And he's mentioned before that he's like, for instance, he told Cammy that he's been hearing her since her birthday.
Yeah.
Which suggests second birthday and all that. So it's like, it makes sense. They've laid the groundwork for it.
Yeah.
If anything, my biggest critique of the episode was that was so obvious.
Oh,
I was like, of course he can, like, that, like, of course it's Chase is the one that's linking him. Like, I thought it was much more of a direct link to Chase.
Oh, okay.
But then they're like, no, it's just when you're uploaded to Genlock. I'm like, by that point, I didn't need to be sold of that.
I didn't need to be sold either. I believed it. I believed it. I was just confused by the words that Cammy was using when she described it, I guess. But before we move on to that, was anyone else really lost when Chase and the Nemesis were talking? Cause it was really hard to understand them sometimes.
I used subtitles.
Okay.
Less than usual. Interesting.
More than usual for me.
It was just like an argument. They were just discussing what was right and stuff like that, and copies and stuff. Like, it was nothing like too big, but it's still kind of annoying how hard it is to understand them when they're in the Holons. I think that's a fault of, at this point, go ahead.
I actually had an easier time understanding it because I could actually make out some of the words on first go. It was less garbled.
But the problem for me was it was less garbled, but it was like I couldn't tell which one was Chase and which one was Nemesis sometimes because they were using the same voice, just slightly different filters. And so...
And you get single words, but you don't get the full sentence. So like I got, in my initial notes I had cry, sleep. So I was like, okay, so it's something to do with humans. And then later I go on to Reddit, it's like, are you still human if you can't cry or sleep or dream? Yeah. So like that's a meaningful line, but in the process of the episode when you're watching it, you don't get the hit because you're spending too much effort trying to decipher the words.
Yeah, and it's hard to say this is a fault of... I don't want to say this is a fault of the show, like, or this is like a bad decision. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how.
It's a choice.
Yeah, I just don't know how else you would do it. You know what I mean? I don't know what you would do instead of this.
I think I know, I know what they're going for. They're going for the idea that since this is like a altered, hackneyed, version of, Chase, that's in Union control, it wouldn't be as clean as it would. Sort of like you'd be playing a pirated, like if you're playing a pirated version of Pokemon Shield, it would probably look really messy compared to just going out to GameStop and buying it yourself. But I think it's the right idea. Its execution is just a little off because if the listener is struggling to understand what they're saying absent subtitles, which Verve still can't put out for some reason, that's not Rooster Teeth's fault. That's probably Verve's fault. And it's saying something meaningful that actually adds a dynamic. That is an issue.
But that's my point, though. My point is that it is adding meaningful stuff, and it isn't understandable by a large portion. Like, I don't think we're alone in these complaints. I'm pretty sure the fandom also has, maybe complaint is too strong a word, has also noted that it's hard to understand him. And it shouldn't be necessary for the viewer to have to search for subtitles to understand it. Like, it sucks that Verve doesn't have subtitles, but they shouldn't even have to look for them. And again, I'm saying this knowing I don't know how you do this differently while also getting across the same thing.
Give them a deeper voice. Like we could just do a normal, just
do the same voice as Chase, just deeper.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's a differentiation, like I get the idea behind making it garbled, but you can do other ways of changing voices besides that.
Or maybe just keep it like robotic with just like a shifting, just like very sharp shifting tones rather than trying to introduce like that staticky.
The staticky stuff is what makes it really hard.
Yeah.
But it's I don't want to go through this whole thing for a while, like talking about what could be different. But I just want to note that I think this is maybe one little stain on an otherwise really great show. Like, this is like we're nitpicking here, is what I'm trying to get at. This is a nitpick. Cause I think even if you don't understand the exact words that are being said, you get the message at least. You get the idea that Chase is talking to Nemesis. Nemesis really wants Chase dead, and Chase obviously doesn't want to be dead. And at least you get that, but it's unfortunate that the exact word, it's like the line you read out, you can't always hear them clearly.
Right, and like that adds a little bit to Nemesis's, like it's just beginning to shift away here. Like that adds a little bit to Nemesis's point of view in dealing with Chase, because not only is he trying to kill him, but like in the meantime he's also like trying to make him doubt his own existence, or like trying to convince our version of Chase that Nemesis is just as like
real,
needing to exist as Chase. He's like, hey, you're not human either, really, because you can't do any human things anymore. And so that leads to the conversation that Chase has with Yaz later in the episode of like, well, I'm not real. Like, I'm a cop. It's like, it's him beginning to like finally break down because he's like dealing with these thoughts, and now Nemesis is in his head whenever he's in the Genlock saying these same kind of things. So like, it adds a little bit of the tension with these lines of like Nemesis like trying to get into Chase's head in more ways than one.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's unfortunate that this is the way it is. But again, I think this is still just a nitpick. I don't think this is like end all. Like, this doesn't make the show horrible or anything like that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Do you agree, Alex? Like, this is still just like an annoying.
Yeah, it's just a small thing to get around. There's enough good stuff rest of the show, and Nemesis and Chase is still obviously the finale is leading up to some kind of Nemesis thing. So I think that this episode does a good job of reminding us like he's still around and he's still like messing with Chase's sense of self-worth, and so that's something we still need to get through before Chase can become a bettered person.
Yeah. So I think we can just put it.
There was, I guess sort of related to this, not quite the same thing, but it's another nitpick I noticed. I guess we might as well get this over with now. After they landed, but before they met Mark Holcroft, did anyone else think that the conversations felt a little off?
We can get there. We're still earlier in the episode, John.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
So the Holon, we're still where Cammy realizes that that's how they're being tracked in the Genlock thing. So Chase gets out of the mech and they get back in the ship, and we have a second conversation in the ship where Chase says Dr. Weller is dead, and this is like the trigger word for Caliban, like in Harry Potter with the snitch. Like it's just, he says a phrase, Caliban triggers, and we get, and all of a sudden Caliban puts out this message from Dr. Weller, which is kind of pretty emotional about like, you're all great, you're all special. And Caliban now has all the information Dr. Weller had, but he isn't Dr. Weller. He doesn't have the same, I think what Dr. Weller said is the same wit as him. It's interesting. It's an interesting part for David Tennant to be playing. I really like it. I think the scene is a little more funny, and we lead into them deciding that they're going to go to the place that Dr. Weller wanted them to go to next, and just see if they can figure out a plan once they get there.
This was one of those scenes I thought it was funnier after I had like stopped watching the episode and I really thought about it. It was one of those kind of jokes because like he talks about how he was struggling with the personal touch, yet he records this very emotional message about how much he means to them and all that. And I was like, he doesn't even know who his recruits are when he's recording this too.
No, he doesn't. That's very
Which
clear.
makes it funnier because it's like, I'm going to be this really emotional to, I don't know who yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And it was actually really clever.
I don't know if it's, I didn't see that as funny, but I did see it as interesting that he recorded this thing and it's clear they didn't know who his recruits were when he recorded this message, but he still found a way to be genuine and emotional for them. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was funny because like he talks about how he's not good with the personal, because it was about how he's not good with the personal stuff. He prefaces that and he has this great emotional thing to basically nobody.
Yeah. Beatriz, how did you like this scene?
I liked it. I want to point out something leading up to the scene, which is when the mech is being picked up by and being dragged into the ship.
Yes.
It looks like a fetus, like in kind of a little bit. No, but I mean this is like really cool. I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's like part of like, it adds more like like, I don't know. I'm like, I was trying to like criticize it, like do some sort of engagement with it, but now you guys laughed, so I'm not going to say it anymore. Well,
Beatriz, I won't say that it isn't that, but I just read it as that's just like the way they fold up.
I don't know, I just thought it was like a nice visual cue of like, oh, like it kind of looks like if he is going back inside. I don't know. Anyway,
and
I
it's
like
raining and it's wet. So.
No, I did not that
No,
far.
it never rains, Alex. It never rains.
But I liked it. I will admit that I will miss the more kind of energetic Weller. Like we assume that he would be back in some capacity, so I'm not surprised about the Caliban reveal. But I personally, I will miss the more energetic Weller versus the more monotone Caliban. Personally.
But I mean, like, he's more of a, we can talk about this later. I think this is an argument we're not gonna see each other's side on. But
well, like in this scene, like he ends it with the joke of the only disability in life is a bad latitude, and then he like says out loud, "Holding for laugh."
Like so, I found that really funny. I found that.
No, it's a different kind of humor.
It's just a different humor.
David Tennant was doing. I think both sides are equally valid in terms of their funniness.
David Tennant turns on the bad. David Tennant does the dad jokes.
See, but for instance, like that joke didn't land for me.
Really?
That one I didn't find funny. The one I did find funny was when he said, "Or I could have put in the wrong coordinates."
Oh yeah, that was great. That was probably
that one. I was like, "Oh God, did you?" And then because I don't know if I can trust this robot, so that's why I'm like, "Sir, like not all the jokes that Caliban had landed for me, but I don't know."
I think the coordinates one was probably, if it wasn't for a Cammy line later, that was the funniest line of the episode. Like it was a really good line.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. But yeah, but this also is interesting because all the people in the ship decide to keep going just because of what Weller said, which says a lot about how I think directionless all 5 of these people are. Like they just have nothing and they're just like, I guess that's something to go towards now, and they just all decide, yep, that's enough, we're going to this secret base, Artasa, I think it's called. It's the way it's pronounced, I mean, it's Asa. It's interesting to me just how easy it is to convince them. But
I don't know if it's I don't think it should have been hard. Like why would it have been hard? I mean, it was
because just a few minutes ago they were just like completely ready to go to the club and just not do anything.
Yeah, but then you have this emotional message from Weller. And then you have like, hey, now we have a direction now, where we have some place where we can go. Whereas before we had nothing. So I don't know if anything, it's like, okay, their desperation for some sort of direction makes them go even more easily inclined to go there.
Yeah, I guess you could read it that way, and I see what you're coming from. I'm just like, these, and I don't think it's unbelievable. That's not what I'm saying. I think I believe this scene. I completely buy it. I'm just saying I think these people are, like I said, I guess I just read the desperation a little bit different than you, just different tone, but I did read it as desperation as well for some direction. And I guess I put a little bit different emotion behind that. But, I don't know. I really like this. I like that Dr. Weller's here to always remind us that he's dead. So that's nice. Does anyone else have anything to say about this scene before we move on?
Yaz tries to grab Chase's
Oh,
hand
yes.
here,
Yeah.
and so that's the first moment hinting before we get to the next scene, so that's
Yeah.
just nice.
Also,
It buys into everyone buying into the speech, the fact that they all feel very emotional while listening to this.
Yeah. And
Can't
also,
Can't be real excited about astronaut ice cream.
Oh, yes.
but also, RT known for important hand-holding scenes and shots. So, just putting that out there. Hand-holding here is like third base. So.
Wait, which person's holding hands here? Is what you're saying?
No, Rooster Teeth is like a really big on hand.
Yeah, I know, but who in the scene is holding hands?
Yaz and
Yaz
Chase.
reaches out.
They try to. They try
Yeah.
to. Okay.
Well, she tries to, and then he notices. So it's like, it was a
That's
moment.
third base. I agree. They're together. They might as
Not
well just.
yet. I mean, it failed. She couldn't hold his hand. So
Well,
it
yeah, they
wasn't
might as
like-
well have just fucked in front of the entire group.
Okay, that's not what I said. But sure.
Human Holon sex. What would that be like?
Let's go back. Let's
go to the next scene, because here...
let's do like the best joke of the episode, which is they land.
Wait, no.
What else? Oh, right, the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, Beatriz, we're skipping over more.
I got excited about Cammy's joke about Star Wars. Okay.
We'll get there. Yes. So we get the scene inside the where everyone's sleeping essentially, and Chase is in his pod, and Yaz and him have like a little heart to heart here, and it really shows just how close these two are to each other. It's really been a background relationship. It's just something that we kind of get hints at all now and then, but this really feels very personal and close, and like this is something they've done before. I thought the writing here was very good. I really liked this scene a lot. I liked the voice acting, just the tone, just the way that Yaz tries to touch Chase again. I think this scene is very well done. This is a very well constructed, very tight scene.
Yeah, and I feel like here is the first time in this show that I finally feel something for Chase. Maybe it's something to do with how it's delivered and the fact that it feels like a more intimate relationship than any other relationship we've seen him in so far, including Miranda. So this whole thing of him finally admitting his dark doubts, and Yaz trying to help him out, and Chase is kind of pushing away, but all that feels like a lot more emotion than I've gotten out of him so far in the show. So I think that this is definitely a big step to making Chase, making him sympathetic for our final moments here, this moment with Yaz.
I think what it really shows is that he's very open with people he's familiar with. He's more open with Yaz because he's been around Yaz for a while. But he's not as open with Cammy and Kazu and Val. But, and I think that's more what this is showing. And he used to be that open with Miranda, but Miranda's dead/gone, and he's been away from her for a while. And I think that's what I got from this scene most of all. That he is emotional, it's just we haven't seen him with the right combination of characters yet.
Which is, and adds more, it does get into the identity stuff, which is, we don't know how this Chase actually truly feels about the people of his past life. Is there an emotional connection there, or is it superficial? And are the connections he's made since he's become Chase and he's been turned on, I guess, are those more meaningful to him? And for me, what struck me about this whole thing was also the body language that Yaz showed. Just, her leaning against his Holon, I guess, the bed. And there was just this, just based on the body language, it's just, she's used to talking to him like that. And she's used to she expects him to sit down, next to it and joining her. So it's just, I agree. It does, but it also adds this layer of, is he also, is he mourning the people he's lost? Does he mourn Miranda, or is this, he's expected to mourn her? And up to this point, the reasons his interactions with Miranda seem so forced is because he's forcing himself to feel them, because he's this is who I was, right? You know what I mean? So it's...
And I think there's some amount of that probably going through his head right now of, are these feelings mine, or are they Chase's? And I'm not Chase. And it's such... I love this theme because they're doing it so well. It would be very easy to phone this whole thing in, but they're doing so much with it, and it's so consistent with everybody else. They're just coming at this one idea from so many directions, and it's been done so well. I am stunned, really.
And
And it gets you going too, because like you could spend like hours and hours just like dissecting and pulling it apart, and that really makes it just such a real fascinating concept and a real fascinating show to begin with.
Yeah, and Yaz even comments like that maybe they deleted memories of the other Chase. Like they're bringing up stuff we've been talking about in this podcast, where we're like, maybe they messed with the other Chase's head, so it's not even you anymore. Like it's somebody else. But then there's a question of, is that still Chase? Like, from a philosophical standpoint, from us talking about it, like, maybe that is still Chase, even if they took out some of his memories. It's really interesting, and I hope we dive into it next episode, but it feels like next episode's just gonna be a fight scene. It really feels that way right now. Does anyone else want to talk about this, heart-to-heart that we have here before we move on to, I think, the more light part of the episode? Okay. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. So we get to Artasa, and Beatriz, what is the joke you want to tell us?
So Cammy, as she steps down from the ship, goes, "I've got a bad feeling about this," and then Chase goes, "Don't even. Like, just don't. Just
yes.
don't." And it's like the greatest thing, because that's like, if there's one line in Star Wars that anyone should, like, one of, like, the key lines, the one that's repeated all the time, I feel like even more so than "May the Force be with you," is, "I've got a bad feeling about this."
Yeah.
Is that specifically a Star Wars line, though?
Yes!
I mean, it's famously from Star Wars, but...
It's, like, mentioned in every movie. It's the, "I got a bad feeling."
If you type "I've got a bad feeling," like, about this in Google, the first, like, 10 results are Star Wars.
Yeah. But the part that sells it is Chase immediately shutting it down. Like no,
we're not doing this.
Recognizes it and like stops her immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know it is?
Yeah, if the part, I agree with you, Alex, the part that sells it is Chase. Like, he's just like, we're not doing this. You're not beaming on me. It was really good. And we get to see Henry Wu again. He steps out and he saves our heroes from getting shot, which is good because he just wants to see their toys.
Cammy, what are you doing here, Henry? Science.
That was a good line. There's a pretty good joke.
Henry has a lot of good lines in this this back half of the episode. I think he's great.
He is really great. I really like him. And then we meet Dr. Weller's ex-wife, Fatima Jha. Yeah, Fatima Jha.
Yeah.
Dr. Jha. Voiced by, oh god, I hope I can say this name right. Anisha Nagarajan?
No, close enough.
Yeah. I apologize if I butchered that, but she hasn't done a ton. She was in Outsourced and a musical called Bombay Dreams, but she hasn't done a ton. But she does good here. She plays Dr. Weller's ex-wife, and we break the news to her, and this leads us directly into the conversation with Mark Hallcroft, I mean.
I will say and I think John mentioned it, the dialogue was a little like off. For me, this is a scene where it was slightly off. Like, she sells it.
Yeah.
But I feel like they weren't, even like the awkwardness wasn't working. I was like, I was like clearly like, okay guys, this is his wife, obviously. And then everyone was like, not, I don't know. It was just, I think this is the weakest voice acting delivery.
Yeah, I was actually more going for like the whole thing where it seemed like when they were talking to when the characters were interacting with each other, it was like it's one of those things like I heard a little bit in this season of Ruby as well, just like the way the way they start some of their words. It's not the lines itself, it's the way they're saying them. It's like for some reason the inflection in certain points is just like slightly off, like compared to like how a normal conversation would go. That was what was striking me. I was like, it's like you can't put your finger on it, but you're listening and you're just like,
Yeah, I don't really get what you guys are talking about, but I'll just say, like, if you sense awkwardness here, then I didn't sense it, but if you sense it, that you could sort of explain, like, hey, they have to tell this person that a person she worked with died. Like, that's kind of a tough position to be in. But, like, I didn't sense it. I just thought it was, like, normal conversations.
I just felt like the dialogue was a little stilted, and not from her end, because her her line delivery was good. I just felt it was stilted from their end, from the group's end.
I was more going for how the delivery was done, not by her, because I thought she was good, but more like the conversation with Henry and the crew. I thought that was something was a little off there.
I'm just with Alex here. I did not feel like it was that stilted. If it was stilted, it was so minor that I didn't notice, because this scene moves pretty fast, and we're out of here pretty quick. Like, it's not like a very extended scene. It's maybe like a minute long where we talk to this woman. But,
Also, like, isn't Chase the only one doing the talking here?
I think so?
Yeah, so, like,
yeah.
Chase always speaks awkwardly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt the actual dialogue written was stilted. I was like, ooh, like, I wouldn't have worded it this way.
Okay. Cause the thing is, Beatriz, I did not see this woman as, I thought she might just be a friend. Like, I did not go like, oh, she's definitely his ex-wife or anything.
Oh, I thought it was obvious.
Yeah,
Maybe it's because I felt like the scene was too long. I was like, they were dragging out this, like, reveal for, like,
oh, I did not.
And I was like, no, this is, I thought it was obvious, but
I wasn't like super shocked that it was his ex-wife. Like, I thought that was a possibility, but I wasn't like, oh, this is definitely his ex-wife. Like, I thought like it was like a friend or a girlfriend.
Well, notably at the beginning when they land, the robot Caliban says something like, "I've had colder receptions, my ex-wife."
Yeah, no.
They opened with it as a joke, so like when it comes to that, like her actually being the ex-wife, at least to me, I got to take a little back because like, oh. Okay.
I thought he was joking. Like, I didn't think he actually had an ex-wife. Like, I didn't think that was.
Oh, I did. I was like, oh, like when okay. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was just like very keen on what he was saying, and I was like, oh, he probably had a family or whatever.
But I really like, speaking of that Caliban joke, I like that joke too, especially because of Chase. Chase is really good at like being the punchline giver. Like, he's just like, maybe it's better if you stay on mute. Like, I really like those lines from Chase. They're really good. Like, he just knows that his whole group is just, like, Cammy, Caliban, and stuff are just, like, really crazy. They just need to be kind of kept in check sometimes.
No, and also, like, if he slings those hot jokes in the science center, like, somebody's gonna notice that Weller branded humor, so.
Yeah, I know.
Like, whoa.
Whoa. But, after this, we get a scene with totally not villain Mark Holcroft. Totally not a villain.
Totally not
a villain.
Maybe not actually a villain.
Maybe, but I really was feeling villain here.
He's the queen, whatever I want to be of this universe.
Yeah. He gives a villain monologue about introducing all our characters to him, like giving us backstory on everybody, and then pretty much points them in the direction of a fight to go kill somebody. It feels very villainish.
Yeah. Now, I'll say you could, it's also, this show I think has done a good job at not diving deeply into tropes like that. So like, I at this point I have a little faith in them that they're not going for obvious villain here. But like, I wonder if it's also like a similar situation to Weller, where he's like, I'm doing this for the right the technology for the right reasons, but I gotta hide stuff from you so you don't get freaked out when we get to certain steps in the process, sort of thing.
It might be, but I think the struggle here is still, we don't know what the Union wants, so we don't know who could possibly be with them. That's the problem. We have no motivations for the Union at all. And, but that's, I don't know if we can take the whole end of the podcast and just talk about that, because I'm still frustrated about that. Did anyone have anything else to say about this boardroom scene with them with the CEO? I don't think there's a lot to dig into here. It's just,
well, there's a couple of like new bits of information about our actual Genlock crew here.
Yeah,
right?
nothing too big though. Like Kazu he essentially flunked out of a thing to get into a military group. Was that it? Something like that.
And he's totally fine with that.
And he says he's totally fine about it, but we can probably read into it more than that.
And Yaz outing her parents as intellectuals to the Union, and then Val puts their hand on her shoulders, like in support. Like, that was a cute moment.
I really like the way Yaz kind of looked over, kind of like aggressively, but then became kind of lighter as she realized it was just Val.
I did actually like that little bit of addition, because it does give us at least something about about sort of what the Union is. It's kind of like it's a dictatorship essentially, where
but we need more.
If you're
Yeah, we do need more. I'm like, is the Union part of, is like, it started in America? Where is the Union?
Yeah, we don't
like,
even know
what
where
is
it
it?
is.
No, we do need more, but at least it's more than what we had before we went.
Well, it's more about Yaz, like that idea of like her accidentally sending her parents off to a dictatorship is a bad thing.
Did they say it was accidentally?
I don't remember if they used that word.
I think they said on purpose. I thought they said
because I feel like that was it. Maybe it was like
she regretted it. That's why she regretted it.
Yeah.
It's like maybe she was part of a resistance group and she was maybe a Union ally, and then that happened and then everything changed. So, I mean, more reason why we need a Yaz episode.
Mm-hmm.
Also, more parallels between her and Blake. Like, my goodness. Because her parents maybe weren't intellectuals, but again, it's the whole, like, they went against the white thing, they left it, so it's like maybe they were there, but then they were, like, kicked out of it, so I don't know.
In training days, she was the one wearing the Blake getup, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
There you go.
Yeah.
The other thing about Val being, Russian then heading towards Ukraine for societal pressure.
Yeah.
It's like, when you realize Val is, well, who she is, that could go so many different ways too, because it's like, okay, so it could be, pressure because she's gender fluid, or is it pressure because, Russia was less liberal than Ukraine? It's hard to look at that and sort of divorce it from what modern real world politics is like, though, too. But it's like, that's a little, I wonder what that, like, we wonder what was that all about?
I think it's refreshing. I'm like, thank you for actually, like, being upfront about it. And because I guess Rooster Teeth is like, it's an independent studio, so it doesn't have to fall into these.
Yeah. They don't have a
like
production
politeness
thing.
Politics for the sake of worldwide releases. I mean, like, recently Bohemian Rhapsody had to cut out, it's not a lot, but it had to cut out all its LGBT material from it to even air in China. And, like,
Rooster Teeth doesn't have to do that.
And keeping with animated films, like, part of the reason why everyone's like, oh, like, there's no way that they're going to give Elsa a girlfriend because this has to air in Russia and China and international markets. It's like, no, here they are blatantly calling it out. They're like, no, this is what's happening.
They are strict. They are really calling out Russia here. Like, this is exactly what this is. It's not like a big, like, they said it in bold letters, but that's what they're doing. They're saying Russia doesn't like people like this, and they don't.
Does that mean they're also calling out Iran for the whole killing intellectuals bit?
I mean,
I think that's a little more unclear.
I mean, that you can see everywhere there. That's not just Iran. That's like, I mean, in Venezuela, people are being.
Well, I mentioned Iran because Yaz is Iranian.
But I mean, like, this was clearly about the Union. Like, that was clearly about the Union.
Like, that
and I don't want to extrapolate.
This is specifically Russia.
Yeah, I don't want to extrapolate to talk about other countries politically. Let's just keep it to Russia because that's the one that's clearly stated here that Russia did something. And I think that one is stated very clearly that they do not like the LGBT community. I'll say that lightly enough. And that reflects the way they are in the real world. And so, and like Beatriz said, they probably cannot do that except for the fact that they air online. They do not have to deal with like NBC or anything like that. Like, they just air their show. And
plus, if there's Rooster Teeth fans in Russia, they've probably built their proxies and VPNs already, so they're good.
I guess. I don't know if good's the right way to put it, but they have a way of viewing it. But it's interesting. It's interesting that they can do stuff like this. I don't think we're gonna get a ton of this. I don't think they should do this a ton, because I'd rather not.
Well, because we still need to find out what the Union is.
Yeah.
Let alone the rest of world politics.
If we want to get into the geopolitics, let's stick to this world.
Yeah, let's get through this world's geopolitics before we start making political statements about the real world.
The Russians.
Just because we don't have time for it in this show right now. Not that I don't appreciate calling out Russia for the way it is. But other than that, like, this seems pretty just like. Not a ton happens. We just point our heroes in the direction of the villain, which we know is going to happen because there's a finale coming up. And we also get in the scene a mention of Cammy talking about CAD files, which is awesome because those are a real program in the real world. And she talks about having CAD files for everybody's suit of armor, like not just hers. And this surprised me. I didn't realize that Cammy was making suits for everybody. I thought she was just making a suit for herself. Was anyone else surprised by that?
Not really. I figured she was going to make stuff for herself.
Well, I mean, like, she made stuff for herself, but she also designed everybody else's too.
Actually, on that point, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking a little bit there. When she said she had all the CAD designs, and then Weller's ex-wife, sorry, I forgot her name, but
Dr. Jha.
She had said a line, tell me if you guys thought this was weird. She said, "You have CADs. Yes, send them over." It almost sounded like the word yes was meant to be Cammy's line, and she accidentally said it.
I did not feel that at all.
I didn't catch that.
I did feel that was a little still to delivery, but yeah.
Yeah. I think we're getting a little too nitpicky. I don't think we need to get into this deep, because I think we don't need to be this negative about it.
I was a bit surprised that Cammy had all the CAD designs though ready to go just in case.
Oh, I'm not surprised she had them on hand. I'm surprised she had them for everybody. I thought she just had her own.
Well, look, she is the true team leader, taking initiative to make everybody feel cool.
It feels like Cammy's taking the lead.
But
they do call out Chase as the leader later though. But yeah, I think this, then we get to actually see the new robots, which are, I think they're kind of, I don't like this that we know what these robots were going to look like from the opening. I think that was a mistake, that we knew what these were going to look like already. We've seen them in action every single week in the theme song.
Yeah.
Which I think is whatever. But I do think that the best line of the episode is here. I think this is the best one. When they're all pointing at Cammy's robot and said, Cammy, what'd you do to your robot? And she goes, it me! And I think that's the cutest thing ever, and I loved it so much, because Cammy is so precious, and we need to keep protecting her. I just need to say that every few minutes in this podcast.
The runner-up line for me is when Kazu says, 10-year-old me is really happy right now.
Oh, yeah.
I may or may not have screen capped that.
He was really cute too, just how excited he was about the giant robot.
Shogun.
Yeah, I was worried that he'd be like, wow, that's racist. Cause he was upset about Cammy being like, do you read manga? And he's like, no. Not since I was a kid. I thought he'd be upset about it, but he's just so excited for his stupid samurai robot. I love it so much.
Also in this scene, we see that Chase has changed his outfit in accordance with his new robot. So and I think there's some mention about hey, it's been 4 years, it was time to change. So I think this is another thing of him slowly coming to grips with his new self. Yaz also says you look good. So maybe that's the most romance tinged part of this entire relationship.
Just probably the most romantic part.
Yeah, so ending on a nice, cute note for everybody, really.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything. I think this scene also made me realize that we still have that extra Holon back at the anvil that the Union have, because we had those 6, remember?
Right, yeah.
So there's one more sitting there in the anvil that the Union definitely has now, which is an interesting wrinkle that I hadn't thought about till right this moment when we ended the episode. But, is there anything else anyone wants to say? Any final thoughts before we wrap this up? Beatriz, do you have any final thoughts?
I'm just excited that the final fight scene is going to happen in Miami. I'm just so thrilled that we've established this and that it's going to make an appearance in the finale. I'm just so happy.
Now, question, Beatrice, in question to that, where is this center exactly? Because as far as I can tell, it looks like a very desert background. So,
it's probably somewhere in Nevada, but we both know that it's all gonna take place in Miami. We all know this.
All right, moving on. Beatrice is wrong. Alex, what are your final thoughts?
I feel like the distance is just too much there, but I still defend that this is a great episode of Genlock, maybe one of the best, just because I think that we've gotten a lot deep into the relationships of them, and maybe I can be swayed to believing that the third act maybe doesn't work as well as I initially thought it would, but I still think that we're setting this is one of the better. This is probably the best way you could set up a finale, if you want to do the cool down approach as opposed to the ramp up approach. So I really enjoyed this, and I am both excited and anxious and a little scared, but kind of hyped for the finale extravaganza, because I don't know, I like this rhythm of Genlock, but I've been continually impressed by it, and so I will likely again be impressed by it next week.
Yes, that's great. John, any final thoughts?
I think my only final thought is I want a Robo Shogun. How do I get one?
I can't help you there. Hopefully there's some action figures on Rooster Teeth website. I'm assuming.
I think I may have come up with the Chase Yaz ship name, Quidditch, because she's golden, like the golden snitch, and his call name is Chaser. So.
Oh, I like that.
I think that's too far of a stretch. I don't think anyone. I don't like ship names you have to explain.
How about Golden Snitch then? I'm trying here.
I know you're trying, and I think you're close, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Anyway,
Viewers, put your ideas in the comments below.
Yeah. John, any other thoughts though?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, this was fun. This episode is great. I agree with Alex. I do think this episode's very good. I think there's a couple of things we had a couple nitpicks about, but again, they're nitpicks. We're not like saying this episode was bad or anything. But anyways, you can find out all this info at on the podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. And you can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Sagatores, who does not have a nickname yet. We can think about that later. Anyways, and thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Is there anything else coming up, guys? Anything you guys got going on?
Well, recently I dropped a She-Ra mythology podcast, which is a lot of fun. If you're a fan of She-Ra, then you should listen into it.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I saw that pop up. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I definitely will when I get the chance. Yeah, we also just recorded a D&D podcast for Ruby, and if you guys, which I think that lines up with you guys here listening to Genlock. If you want to listen to that, we'll be posting that hopefully soon. Hopefully that'll be up around a little bit after this one's up, but it's a little bit longer, so it might take a little longer to edit. But yeah. Anyways, guys, it was great for you guys to be here. It's fun talking to you guys about stuff. Can't wait for the finale next week. Oh, before we leave, Death Watch. Is anybody gonna die? Beatrice, is anyone gonna die?
Oh man, I mean, people have already died.
Yes.
None of the main cast.
Okay.
I don't think.
Alex, anybody gonna die?
Let's say Henry, even though I'd be sad about it. But like
Henry seems like a good pick.
Yeah, he seems like the kind where like you'd feel something for him dying, but like he hasn't been in long enough to be essential to the show. So like I think that he's a prime target, and I'm gonna be kind of salty about it when it happens.
John, anyone dying?
Our collective perception of Rooster Teeth being not as good of an animation studio.
That died like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah,
that died a long
like
time ago.
long time. That died with Ruby Volume 6.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
did. It did. I think that it's a possibility that someone from the Anvil shows up again and then immediately dies. But that's about
possible,
it.
yeah.
That shows that they didn't kill her. But like Miranda, they kept alive and then they kill her or something. But I don't know. It's also interesting that Dakota Fanning has not had a huge role in this show, despite being like the second name in the show in the credits. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, guys.
Well, that's what she had the first episode, and now she'll have the last episode. The last episode will be full of Miranda.
We'll see. We still have a chance to see. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Adios.
Take care.
Plums and cherries, OTP.